And while more breaking news that is in fact coming in the Patanjali case, the Supreme Court has now questioned the Uttarakhand government as to why no action was taken. The Supreme Court has asked the Uttarakhand government why they did not act on the misleading advertisements by Patanjali claiming that coronel can actually cure COVID. The Supreme Court has pulled up the Uttarakhand government, accusing them of being hand in glove with Patanjali. The Supreme Court also said that the Uttarakhand government was acting like a post office. It's a tough stand that's been taken by the Supreme Court in the misleading ads case after they declined to accept Baba Ramdev's apology, saying it's just a piece of paper, and the hearing is continuing. Sunil joins us with the latest updates. Sunil, the centre finally broke its silence and filed that affidavit in court today, but now the Supreme Court's also pulled up the Uttarakhand government over quote-unquote being a postbox in this case.
Not only the Uttarakhand government as well as the centre. So don't, be soft on any. The state, in fact, they very categorically saying that how did you act like a post office? Why did you not act? What suddenly you have dawned on you that there is a statute which was passed in 1954. The health ministry had sent a warning and you haven't taken action. What was your officers doing? Not only to the state as well as to the centre. There has been really very tough words. They haven't accepted the apology of Baba Ramdev, and they're not accepting the centre as well as the state's point of view on this entire matter. In particular, in the state, they've asked the officer with folded hands, actually saying, please spare me. And they're saying, no, you will have to sit at home. They've asked for his predecessors. He says, I've joined recently, but he's saying, why have you acted like a post office? And what did you do for those drugs? And as the Supreme Court continues to hear the matter, and we've come to just explain to our viewers, they're very categorically saying that there are fault lines. The fault lines are very clear. And in this case now, because you have seen the writing on the wall from the Supreme Court, you are doing abject surrender. But what about those millions of people who lost their lives, who bought medicines because of this false advertisements from Patanjali, from no less than Baba Ramdev and others? What did the centre and the state do at that stage? What action was taken? Why didn't they intervene? Why didn't they act as per the law in terms of imprisonment or in terms of punishment, but there is no question of a penalty? And why didn't they do anything at that stage? These are the questions that the Supreme Court is asking as they continue to hear and hold the culprits, be it Patanjali or the centre and the state, in these acts where thousands of people lost their lives, many suffered in terms of health, and these promises were made that Corona will, just before, as Justice Kohli herself said, once the vaccines came, then everything became okay, and then you started acting. But what happened before that? And these are questions that people will have to answer. Public memory is short, but the Supreme Court, based on this India Medical Association, is hearing this matter and taking it to its final conclusion.
All right, Sunil, it remains to be seen what action is taken against health officers, or what action is taken against Patanjali, which is, like we've been telling our viewers, which is a giant when it comes to alternative medicine. It's a huge industry. And, Ramdev's apology now has been rejected by the Supreme Court. So it also remains to be seen what happens there.
Yeah. Not only, as I told you, that's not Ramdev, it's also the Uttarakhand. And I need to actually get back to listen to the final parts of the hearing. But this is something that, since you all had, we have an obligation to tell our viewers about what is happening. I have come just basically disclosing some of the, observations and hearings that is taking place. The Supreme Court has said, we will rip you apart, and has been very, it's not even worth the paper that you've written on it. All these things, both to the centre, the state, as well as Patanjali, all are being wrapped in absolute terms about the way they have handled with and played with the people's lives, people's health.
Right. Sunil, we leave you to it. Since you're also monitoring the developments in the Supreme Court, we'll track those updates with you very closely. But make no mistake, it is extremely serious, the view that the Supreme Court has taken, not just against Ramdev, not just against Patanjali, but also against the Uttarakhand government and the centre. After coming down heavily on the centre in the last hearing today, the central government has filed an affidavit against Patanjali in the Supreme Court. And now the Supreme Court has also asked some very tough questions of the Uttarakhand government as to what they were doing when all of these misleading ads were, were having these dire consequences on people's health, on public health in the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Remember, Ramdev is in the dock because Patanjali claimed that they can cure COVID with coronel. So God knows how many people have actually fallen for this false narrative, and instead of taking actual medication, allopathic medication that could have potentially helped them, how many people have fallen prey to this false advertising. So the Supreme Court has taken a very stern view of this matter. Sunil Prabhu is of course monitoring all the latest developments from the court and will continue to bring us up to speed with the very latest. But like I said, tough questions are being asked of the government of India, of the Uttarakhand government, and the Supreme Court today has rejected Ramdev's apology, saying there will be consequences for the actions of Patanjali. So that's the latest that's coming in from the court. We'll continue to get you the latest.